Let's talk about the train wreck known as last night's Super Bowl halftime show. And there's a little controversy brewing of this because apparently the NFL was aware, and that's in quotes, that Eminem was going to kneel during the Super Bowl halftime performance, Rep says. This is a story by Lauren Overholtz at foxnews.com. All elements of the halftime show were observed during multiple rehearsals this week, according to a rep for the NFL. The NFL was aware that rapper Eminem, once again that's in quotes, they were aware that Eminem was going to kneel during the Super Bowl 56 halftime performance. Quote, that report was erroneous, NFL spokesperson Brian McCarthy told Fox News Digital in a statement about a report that claimed Eminem was told he couldn't kneel during the halftime show. And of course, after this happened, this morning, one of these CNN commentators felt the need to jump on the bandwagon and call it a bad day for BLM. I'll share that story with you here in just a moment. Quote, we watched all elements of the show during multiple rehearsals this week and were aware that Eminem was going to do that, he added. Eminem joined Dr. Dre, Mary J. Blige, Snoop Dogg, and Kendrick Lamar to perform for the much-anticipated show. Much anticipated, my ass. You know what would have been really cool? Is if we had a high school band or a college marching band, maybe an orchestra out on the field with some fireworks. How about Handel's Royal Fireworks music? That would have been killer. With some choreography, maybe a montage. But apparently, originality is not in the NFL playbook. And they have a picture here of Eminem kneeling at the end of his song. When Eminem's turn on stage came, he performed a couple of his hits. The rapper took a knee while performing Lose Yourself. I don't think this guy has had a hit, in 20 years? Eminem stayed down on one knee for a moment while Dre sat in front of a piano and played Tupac's I Ain't Mad at Ya. The NFL's denial comes after the Puck reported that the NFL didn't want Eminem to kneel during the halftime performance. A representative for Eminem did not respond to Fox News Digital's immediate request for comment, of course not, and Eminem taking a knee appeared to be an apparent tribute to Colin Kaepernick's protest. Kneeling became controversial in the NFL after Kaepernick began using it as a form of protest against police brutality and racial injustice. The former 49ers quarterback first attempted to sit during the national anthem, but later turned to kneeling. Another picture of Eminem here. And did you see this? When he was performing, because I went back and I watched the tape, this guy is struggling on stage. It almost looked like he was going to fall over. Did anybody else catch that? The quarterback eventually opted out of his contract with the 49ers, but never joined another NFL team. The former quarterback has insisted that his failure to rejoin the league was due to being blacklisted by NFL owners who opposed his anthem protest. Well, they weren't opposed to him protesting against the anthem. They were opposed to him kneeling when he was on the job. Remember, he's working for the 49ers under the umbrella of the NFL. That's his employer. Or employers. He sued the NFL and ultimately received an undisclosed settlement. So if we go to this other story at foxnews.com, CNN guest claims Super Bowl halftime show a bad day for the BLM movement. This is by Lindsay Kornick. Rapper Eminem kneeled during his performance in Los Angeles. Monday's episode of CNN's New Day featured a segment that discussed the Super Bowl halftime show and what it could mean for the Black Lives Matter movement, with one guest claiming it was, quote-unquote, a bad day. During the hip-hop centered show, and by the way, this show was your typical run-of-the-mill hip-hop, I've seen it before, halftime show. Again, no originality from these people in the NFL. Eminem closed his part by kneeling on stage in reference to NFL player Colin Kaepernick's protest. The performance was widely praised, but CNN cultural columnist and guest Christopher John Farley criticized the act, noting that there was no mention of Kaepernick during the night. Quote, There is one thing people are really talking about, but no one mentions him by name. All the tributes had to do with trailblazers, people fighting against the power like Mary Mary, singing Lift Every Voice and Sing, badly by the way, and having black country star Mickey Guyton singing the national anthem, and having Billie Jean King do the coin flip. And yet nobody actually mentioned the guy who really helped inspire protest at the NFL level, and that was Colin Kaepernick. Farley said, fellow guest and journalist Mara Shevakampano, whatever her name is, further added that the Super Bowl was actually a bad day because there was no meaningful change. I hate to break the news to you, Mara, but these are performers. And the irony in all this, these people are dancing around on stage, talking about oppression, and they're making millions of dollars a year. Why is Eminem kneeling when he lives in the greatest country on the planet that allowed him to make millions off of his crap rap music? I mean, let's be honest here. He had a couple of good tunes, okay? But not a major hit in 20 years? Come on now. I think at a certain age you should stop rapping. I'm sorry, but at a certain age you should just stop rapping. Quote, while it's important to recognize and acknowledge that it was a good night for hip-hop, it's also important to recognize it was a bad day for the movement, because the NFL was able to successfully use black performers to distract black audiences from the issues that are important to them without making any meaningful change whatsoever. A little bit like putting on a Band-Aid on a tumor. Shevocampo said. I can't pronounce this person's name. Numerous media figures and pundits criticized this take on the performances, including New York Times journalist Nicole Hannah-Jones. I'm sorry. Looks like Nikolai to me. Do folks really think black people are so unsophisticated as not to be able to enjoy seeing some of our favorites performing while also realizing that the league still has major racial issues? I don't know a single person who watched the show and thought absolution. Hannah-Jones tweeted, major racial issues? A large percentage of the players in the NFL are black, and they're making millions of dollars a year. Don't tell me, Ms. Jones, that there's a racial problem in the NFL when you've got African-American players who are making millions of dollars a year, making more than I do. I'm not making any money off of these videos. And she's going to sit there and complain that there's no racial justice in the NFL. Give me a break. And how much do you make a year, Ms. Jones? And, of course, they have a New Day tweet. It was a good night for hip-hop, but it was a bad day for the movement because the NFL was able to successfully use black performers to distract black audiences from the issues that are important to them without making any meaningful change, as was mentioned in this article. Do folks really think black people are so unsophisticated as not to be able to enjoy seeing some of our favorites performing while also realizing the league still has major racial issues? I don't know a single person who watched the show and thought absolution, as mentioned again on the article. That's at Twitter. Farley admitted that he did enjoy the performances overall, but instead that they needed to be a time to be meaningfully engaged with more political issues. Did I read that right? Yes, that there need to be a time to, quote-unquote, be meaningfully engaged with more political issues. Okay. There's a missing part there unless they meaningfully engage with issues. You know, they use this language. And they just can't come out and say, you know, we think you're all racist, and no matter what you do, you're not going to please us. I mean, that's really what they should do. These people are the biggest hypocrites on the planet. You're making millions of dollars a year, dancing around on stage. How much money did it take for the NFL to even get your ass on stage to begin with? Well, I'm not doing that performance unless you pay me this much. And don't tell me that wasn't going on behind the scenes. See, everybody believes that this is all spontaneous. That these people just come on the stage on a whim and perform. That's not the case. It's all rehearsed. And you got to go through their agent. And they have a contract of some kind. And they're getting paid to be there. Trust me, they're not doing this out of charity. So these are the stories at foxnews.com. This one here talking about CNN, a CNN commentator who claims that the Super Bowl halftime show was a bad day for the BLM movement, by Lindsay Cornick. And the other article here is the controversy over Eminem kneeling. NFL was aware Eminem was going to kneel during Super Bowl halftime performance, Rep says, by Lauren Overholt. If you like the video, please click that like button, subscribe, hit me up on Instagram at hashtag Jason Composes, leave comments below. Now you can reach me at Twitter, Cultural Confederacy at Twitter. And I will catch you next time. This is the Cultural Confederacy saying peace out. Stay safe, everybody. God bless this great country, and you all have a good night.